Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope your day and your week have been off to a fantastic start. Got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 5 NBA player props to go ahead and share with you guys in tonight's NBA slate. But first, guys, before we dive into today's picks, a quick little recap of how I did last night. And if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, guys, we did indeed cash last night. A solid 3-1 performance. A lot of people were a little iffy on yesterday's picks, and I get it. There were some risky plays in there, especially with a couple of unders with some starters in those playoff games. The only one we missed the mark on was the Steph Curry over 5.5 assists. However, we did mention we were only going to put probably like half a unit on that play. So it ended up being a really solid day. Ty Jerome, no doubt. Evan Mobley was a bit of a sweat, but luckily that game was such a massive blowout. He only played 23 minutes, and Steph Curry didn't shoot the ball that well, and despite the Warriors winning the game. Jimmy Butler returning kind of tanked our assist prop, but helped us in terms of Steph securing that under 27.5 points. So 3-1, we won 1.89 units last night. We are now 214 and 174 on the year in our single bet category. When you put single bets and parlays together, we are up just shy of 29 units profit, just about 29 units profit on the year. So we're having a really solid season. Let's go ahead and keep those good times rolling with 5 more picks in today's NBA slate coming your way right now. Wasting no time at all, guys, jumping right into the outlier screen. Our first player prop in today's slate comes from the Bucks-Pacers game, 6 p.m. tip-off. We're going Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers over 15.5 rebounds plus assists. Pretty good value here, minus 104 odds over on FanDuel. It is available on many sports books for a variety of odds. As always, guys, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available to you. And yeah, the data is pretty solid. 7 of his last 10 games, he's gone ahead and cashed the over, averaging 15.9 rebounds plus assists per game over his last 10 games. Go ahead and narrow it down a little bit, just the last 5 games, a 100% hit rate, 5 straight games, including all 4 games in this series versus Milwaukee. He's cashed the over, averaging 18.8 rebounds plus assists per game over the last 5 games. Now, if you were to go ahead and look at the overall numbers for the entire season, it's not really good for Tyrese Halliburton, just a 32% hit rate. Actually, going into the playoffs, this line was abysmal. Of course, we have a couple factors to consider. The line's elevated due to the playoffs, right? You're playing more minutes. It's not like you have to worry about him only playing 25 minutes or whatever. You know he's playing at least 30 plus, 35 plus minutes every single night. So naturally, the line's going to be elevated. Also, the solid performance, the little run he's on over the last 5 games in this series in particular, all the lines are going to be elevated for Halliburton, but I still think at the elevated number, it's still a pretty good player prop. And the head-to-head data kind of shows that 11 of his last 19 matchups versus Milwaukee, he's cashed the over. It's a 58% hit rate against Milwaukee over those last 19 matchups, averaging 16.26 rebounds plus assists per game over the last 19 games versus Milwaukee. But the more important thing, he's cashed it in 5 straight games against the Bucks, including all 4 games like I previously mentioned in this series. Look down below there, he's averaging 34 minutes per game over his last 5. He's not even playing a crazy amount of minutes. He's capped off at like 35.5. That was the final game of the regular season. But having some really solid runs here in the playoffs. Rebound chance averaging 9.2 per game. Potential assists, 18.6 potential assists per game across the last 5 games. In Milwaukee, obviously looking at the right side of the screen here, 29th in rebounds allowed to point guards, 21st in assists allowed to point guards. So bottom 10 in both those categories. So it's a really good matchup for Lillard. Sorry, not for Lillard. Oof, that was poor. I do feel bad for him. That's a horrible, at this point in his career, everything. He just got back from the blood clot to now go ahead and tear his Achilles. That's brutal, man. Prayers out to Damian Lillard. That's a horrible thing. But it's a really good matchup for Halliburton here. Over 15.5 rebounds plus assists for minus 104 odds too. Really good value. The only risk here, in my opinion, is the potential that Milwaukee, with Lillard being done, down 3-1, back in Indiana, maybe they just roll over and show their bellies. This game could be like a Miami-Cleveland kind of game like last night. We got a blowout on our hands, and then, Halliburton doesn't play enough or get enough touches on the ball to go ahead and cash the over. Bold prediction, if the Bucks lose tonight, I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is not in Milwaukee next year. I think if they lose, this Bucks team's going to have some radical change. I think Doc Rivers gets fired. I think Giannis gets traded this offseason. Comment down below. If you're watching the video at this point, comment down below what team you think Giannis, or you guys, Giannis Antetokounmpo, will be playing for next year. Personally, I would not be shocked if he's in Brooklyn next year. I think the Nets, what do they have to lose? Throw a bunch of assets, get your superstar, and build around him. It's a big market in New York. other than that, maybe Houston. Houston's a name I've seen float around, but I think Brooklyn is a really solid landing spot for him where they can kind of build the entire team around him. So comment down below where you think Antetokounmpo is going to play next season. All right, guys, our second player prop in today's slate. We're moving on to the Pistons-Knicks game, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. We're going Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons over 33.5 points plus rebounds minus 120 odds over on DraftKings. Again, it's available on multiple sports books for varying odds. Similar to the last prop, and a lot of these player props, you're going to see this because, again, elevated lines. The recent data is really strong for Cunningham. The overall numbers not as strong. Cunningham has cashed the over in 8 of his last 10 games, averaging 36.9 points plus rebounds per game over his last 10 games. So again, really good run of late that he's been on. So far this year, if you were to look at the entire season data, a 46% hit rate on this over, 34 out of 74 games he's cashed the over, averaging 32.34 points plus rebounds per game overall this season. So like I said, from a narrow viewpoint, he's been pretty solid. From an overall more longer view of the season, it's not great. Again, 46% could be worse. Again, Halliburton was like 32% on his season total for his player prop, but 46%, obviously less than half the time he's cashing the over. And from a head-to-head perspective, 6 of his last 10 matchups with the New York Knicks, he's cashed the over, including playoffs. That's a 60% hit rate, averaging 35.1 points plus rebounds per game over their last 10 meetings. Obviously, they played 4 times so far this series. He's cashed the over in Game 2 and Game 4, missed the over in Game 1 and Game 3. Now, I really am betting this over because it's Game 5, the Knicks are up 3-1, Pistons on the brink of elimination. That last game, very controversial. A lot of debate and heat around that last Knicks-Pistons game. I think Detroit comes into this one fired up in Madison Square Garden. I haven't been totally impressed with the Knicks, I'm going to be honest. Yes, they're up 3-1, and yes, again, it's hard to criticize the team that's won 3 out of 4 so far. But there's something with the Knicks, I just don't know if it's a Thibodeau thing, if he's just not the right fit. I don't know what it is, but the Knicks, they just don't look that great to me. And honestly, as a Celtics fan, getting to play them round 2, I think is going to be a treat. Now, that could age horribly, but I think playing the Knicks round 2 is going to be a gift for the Boston Celtics as a Celtics fan. But I think Cade Cunningham on the brink of elimination, pissed off with how Game 4 turned out. I think he's going to come into this game firing on all cylinders, putting it in the Knicks' face. The Knicks, again, defensive versus point guards, they're not a great team. And again, so far, 2 out of 4 games in the series, Cade Cunningham's gone off. So I think it's going to be a big Cade game. I think he's going to answer. I think this goes to at least 6 games. So I think the Pistons do take it tonight in Madison Square Garden, force a Game 6 back in Detroit. That's my prediction for the game. For the player prop also, I think Cade Cunningham definitely cashes this player prop. That's our second player prop in today's slate. All right, guys, for our third player prop, speaking of my Boston Celtics, we're moving on to Celtics Magic Game 5 tonight, 8:30 p.m. tip-off. I actually have 2 player props coming from the Celtics Magic game. Our first of 2 and our third overall, we got Derek White of the Boston Celtics over 19.5 points plus assists. We're grabbing that from minus 138 over on FanDuel. A little juiced in comparison to the previous player props we took. But I'm telling you guys, it's worth it because the data is very strong here. 9 of his last 10 games, including 7 consecutive games, Derek White has cashed this over. He's averaging 23.7 points plus assists per game over the last 10 games. And the further you go ahead and stretch the data out, the more impressive I think the data becomes. 80% hit rate over his last 20 games, averaging 22.75 points plus assists per game. So far this year, a 71% hit rate, including playoffs on the year. To have an entire season view where you played 80 games and you've cashed at a 71% hit rate, that's pretty good. And for minus 138 odds, really solid value. He's averaging 21.36 points plus assists per game overall this year. And if that didn't convince you guys, then look at the head-to-head data here. 7 of his last 9 matchups against the Orlando Magic, he's cashed the over. It's a 78% hit rate, averaging 21.78 points plus assists per game over the last 9 meetings with the Orlando Magic. And if all that didn't convince you, let's narrow it even further. Just this playoff series, 4-0. All 4 games of this series, Derek White has cashed the over, 100% hit rate. He's been playing very well in this series for Boston. I don't see why that would change tonight. Now, defensively, Orlando actually is pretty good on the perimeter against guards, but however, Derek White just found a way. This is one of the best defensive teams, and by number standpoint, the best defensive team in the NBA in both those categories. But yeah, Derek White, he just found a way in this series, obviously playing a ton of minutes, which definitely helps. And in case all that green data didn't do it for you, one more thing to share before we move on to the next player prop here. I put a little minutes filter to show when Derek White plays between 36 and 40 minutes in a game this season. 80% hit rate. 24 out of 30 games where he's played in that range of 36 to 40 minutes, he's cashed the over, averaging 23.9 points plus assists per game. And look at the head-to-head numbers. All 5 of his most recent matches where he played in that minute range versus Orlando, he's cashed the over. And again, all 4 games of this series fit this data range of 36 to 40 minutes played. In translation, I love this player prop a lot, and I think for minus 138 odds, this feels like an alternate line to me. We're getting it at a pretty good value. Love this as the 3rd player prop in today's slate. By the way, guys, shout out to Outlier, the best sports betting tool on the market. I wouldn't have been able to find all of that data that you guys just saw that I just gave you for this Derek White prop without the help of Outlier. It's the best sports betting tool on the market. We offer a special link down below in the description, 7-day free trial to go ahead and check it out for yourself. There's so much information, so much insight, so many numbers and analytics and data that Outlier provides that helps you make smart sports betting choices. You're not going to find a better tool on the market. I actually am working. Now, there is a previous video. I link it always at the end of the video. I did it, I think, a year ago during the All-Star break last year, where I kind of went into how I bet player props, how I use Outlier. I want to make an updated version of that video soon. Once the NBA playoffs start to wind down a little bit and I get a little more time in my schedule, I intend to make an updated video showing you guys how to really dive in and utilize Outlier. So make sure to stay tuned for that. I know I'm not, when I announce videos, 9 times out of 10 they don't happen. It's really a scheduling thing, but I am going to make this video happen because I think it's important for you guys to see how Outlier works, because it really, I'm showing you guys a little bit, the kind of simple view, but there's so much more that goes into it. So guys, go ahead, play around with that for yourself. 7-day free trial, link down below in the description. Special thank you to Outlier for sponsoring today's video. All right, guys, and like I said, sticking with this same game, our 4th player prop in today's slate, we're going Kristaps Porzingis of the Boston Celtics under 25.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. Minus 105 odds over on BetMGM. Again, available on multiple sports books for varying odds. I'll be heads up and honest, the data actually isn't all that strong on this one. The recent data is okay. 4 of his last 5, he's cashed the under. 6 of his last 10, he's cashed the under, averaging 25 PRAs per game. Again, the recent data, not bad. But similar to the Halliburton prop, the overall data is not great. So a 33% hit rate on this under this year, averaging 27.63 PRAs per game this season. Now, to be fair, Porzingis has only played 46 games, including playoffs this year, so it's kind of a smaller sample size in comparison to some of the other players we looked at in today's video. But the data is the data, and the overall numbers don't look great on this total for Porzingis. However, and the main reason why I'm taking this under, and again, betting under on superstars in playoff games, always a risky business, it is the head-to-head data. 6 of his last 8 matchups with the Orlando Magic, he's cashed the under. It's a 75% hit rate over their last 8 meetings, averaging 21.38 PRAs per game over their last 8 meetings. And again, more importantly, 3 out of 4 games in this series, he's cashed the under with a couple of really low games in Game 1 and in Game 3. And it makes sense. Orlando, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA in general. And if you go ahead and look at the numbers versus the center position, 9th in points, 3rd in rebounds, 1st in assists. So it makes a ton of sense why Porzingis has struggled to cash this over in these games. I think as the Celtics progress in the playoffs, there's going to be some better matchups, specifically if they play the Knicks, and I think it's not going to matter if, it's when. When they play the Knicks in the 2nd round, Porzingis is going to have a much better matchup in that spot against Towns, and also his return to Madison Square Garden against his former team. That's going to be a really fun series in general for Porzingis. But I think that series, you're going to see Porzingis have a lot more success than this one, because Orlando defensively, they do disrupt him a little bit. They prevent him from grabbing boards. His shooting number's not as great. And there are better matchups to be utilized in this series than Porzingis versus Wendell Carter, whoever they're playing at center. Risky? Absolutely. But I think it's definitely worth the risk here. And the data seems to suggest we've got some good evidence that this under could hit tonight. So that's our 4th player prop in today's slate. And our 5th and final player prop in today's slate comes from the Clippers-Nuggets game, 10 p.m. tip-off. We're going Kawhi Leonard of the LA Clippers over 24.5 points. I've loved betting on Kawhi over the last couple weeks. He's been not as consistent of a cash cow as I'd like, but when he cashes, he cashes. I actually really love the Clippers team. I just ordered an Ivica Zubac Clippers jersey. I am a jersey collector. I know I'm a Celtics fan, but I like players that I like as long as they're not in the Lakers or the Knicks or the Heat. Those are the 3 teams I don't buy jerseys for: Lakers, Knicks, and Heat. As long as they're not on one of those 3 teams, I'll buy your jersey. When it comes in, I'll make sure to wear it here on the channel, my Ivica Zubac Clippers jersey. Hopefully the Clippers progress far enough in the playoffs that he goes ahead and cashes the over. I almost got a Kawhi one, but I opted for Zubac instead. But we're going Kawhi Leonard here, over 24.5 points. A little juiced, minus 150 over on DraftKings, but I still think it's kind of worth it. Now look, I'm going to be straight up honest. The data does not support any of this. The data is not good even from a recent standpoint. 50% hit rate over the last 10 games. Overall this year, just a 37% hit rate on the over. From the head-to-head perspective, just 2 of his last 7 versus Denver, he's cashed the over. So why do I like this spot? Well, I like this spot because Game 5, series tied 2-2. The Clippers almost battled back in Game 4 and won it and went up in the series. This is a really, really, really important game. And Kawhi Leonard, in his career, when he's been healthy, has risen to the occasion in these games. And I think he's going to do that again here tonight. Again, there's no statistical evidence to prove this. I don't have a number to throw your way to say, hey, this is why I like this. You can go ahead and obviously not tail this if you don't want to tail this. I get it. I'm going with this because in the playoffs, there are certain guys who have that, we'll call it the Jordan gene. I think is the best way to describe it. I think Anthony Edwards is starting to show that he has it. There's few players in this league. I think Gianni has it, even though the team hasn't been doing all that well. That finals run when they won the championship against Phoenix, like you've seen it, like that Jordan gene where they can lock in and it doesn't matter who they're playing, what the matchup is. They transcend the matchup and they just go off and they carry their team. Kawhi, obviously, that whole Toronto run, you saw it. Even in San Antonio, you saw it. So I think that's what's going to I think he's just going to have a massive game. And also Denver defensively versus the forwards, if we're going to be honest here. Bottom 10 versus small forwards. They are better versus the power forward spot. But versus small forwards, and I know in the positionless basketball era, it's hard to quantify who is what. Is he a small forward, a power forward, a shooting guard, whatever. He's listed as a small forward. I consider him to be a small forward. But I do think the Nuggets versus forwards have not been the most successful defense in the NBA. And so I do think Kawhi Leonard has a good matchup on his hands here. So far in this series, he's cashed the over in 1 out of 4 games, but he's been in the ballpark in all 4 games. 24 points in Game 4, 21 points in Game 3, 22 points in Game 1. I mean, obviously we know the minutes are there, and he's taking a lot of shots in these games too. The volume is there. He just hasn't shot the ball particularly well in some of these spots, like this game. 7 for 17, 41% from the floor. He had 21 points. Shoot a little bit better, you've got it. Even Game 4, he shot 10 for 22. One more shot, and he cashes the over. One more free throw made, and he cashes the over. He did go 2 for 3, so that one missed free throw, that was our cash bet there. But the volume, the minutes played, everything seems to suggest he's going to have plenty of opportunities to score. And again, you lose this game, you're down 3-2, and now you got to win 2 straight against Denver, including 1 more in Denver. Winning this game, you put your foot on their throat with Game 6 being back in LA with the wall and everything that Steve Ballmer has built in the Intuit Dome. I think the Clippers, this is their biggest game of the year thus far, by far, without a doubt. I think Kawhi Leonard is a player that rises to the occasion in these games. Is there data to back that up? You can go back to the history with the Raptors and the Spurs and those big playoff games and go look it up. But I'm telling you guys, I trust Kawhi in this spot to have a really massive performance. So that's our 5th and final player prop in today's slate. Guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I'll be back tomorrow with another NBA player prop video. But until then, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Tuesday. Enjoy a really solid NBA playoff slate. 4 games on tonight with some really solid Game 5s, some potential series enders, some really good theatrics. I think that Clippers-Nuggets Game 5 is going to be an insane watch tonight. But enjoy, guys, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, hope you go ahead and win some money and hope you're all winners.